The hotel stood at the edge of a dark forest, quiet and grand. It looked beautiful on the outside, but inside strange things happened. Guests came for rest but often left scared. They spoke of shadows moving on their own, whispers in empty rooms, and the feeling of being watched. For every person who ran away in fear, others came curious or daring. They didn't know that staying there meant becoming part of the hotel's dark and chilling story. The hotel stood on the edge of a dark forest, tall and quiet. It looked like the perfect place for people wanting peace away from busy city life. It was beautiful, with polished floors and big glass windows, but for years there had been strange stories about the place. Some people called it haunted, while others said it was just old tales. Most guests didn't believe the rumors and stayed there anyway. The land where the hotel was built had its own strange history. A long time ago it was home to a big, fancy house owned by a rich family. No one knew much about them because they kept to themselves. Then one day they all disappeared. No one ever found out what happened. The house was left empty for many years until it started falling apart. Later the property was sold, the house was torn down, and the hotel was built. From the moment it opened, odd things began happening. Lights would flicker for no reason, and cold spots would appear even in summer. Guests said they sometimes heard soft footsteps in empty hallways or saw shadows move when no one was there. The staff tried to explain it away, saying it was just the old building settling or problems with the wiring. But deep down, everyone felt uneasy. One day a young woman came to stay at the hotel. She checked in like any other guest. She was quiet, didn't talk much, and carried only a small bag. The receptionist gave her the key to room 314, a corner room with a view of the forest. She went upstairs, and that was the last anyone saw of her. The next morning her room looked untouched. The bed was made, her bag was still in the corner, and nothing seemed out of place. She hadn't checked out, and no one saw her leave the hotel. When the staff looked at the security cameras, they found something strange. The camera showed her walking to her room that night, but after that there was nothing. It was as if she had vanished into thin air. This wasn't the first time something strange had happened at the hotel. Over the years, guests talked about strange whispers in their rooms or seeing shadows that didn't belong to anyone. Some said they felt like someone was watching them. A few left in the middle of the night, too scared to stay. Room 314 started getting a bad name. Guests who stayed there complained of nightmares or waking up feeling cold even when the heat was on. Some even said they saw scratches on the walls that hadn't been there before. The hotel stayed open, and more people came, curious about the strange stories. But the truth behind what was happening in room 314 and the hotel itself remained a mystery. The stories about the hotel spread quickly, and room 314 became the center of attention. Some guests avoided it entirely, asking for rooms on other floors. Others, curious about the rumors, specifically requested to stay there, eager to see if the tales were true. What happened to those brave enough to spend the night was often chilling. One man, a frequent traveler, booked room 314 out of curiosity. He was a skeptic and didn't believe in ghosts or the paranormal. His stay started like any other. He unpacked, settled into the plush bed, and turned on the TV. But as the night wore on, he began to feel uneasy. The air in the room felt heavier, and the silence seemed unnatural, like the room was holding its breath. At some point during the night he was jolted awake. The room was pitch black, except for the faint glow of the clock on the nightstand. He felt a strange sensation, like someone was standing at the foot of the bed, watching him. He reached for the lamp, but it wouldn't turn on. The feeling grew stronger, and when he finally mustered the courage to look, there was nothing there. Yet the fear stayed with him. He left the hotel early the next morning, refusing to talk about what he'd experienced. Other guests shared similar stories, Some heard faint whispers in the room, words they couldn't understand. Others reported cold drafts brushing against their faces or the sound of soft footsteps pacing the floor when they were alone. One woman even claimed she saw a figure in the mirror, a shadowy outline that didn't match her reflection. She fled in the middle of the night, leaving her belongings behind. The hotel staff tried to ignore the growing number of complaints. They assured guests it was all in their heads, the result of too many ghost stories and late-night imaginations. But even the staff couldn't escape the strangeness. Cleaning crews refused to enter room 314 unless they were in pairs. Maintenance workers reported tools disappearing or being moved when they turned their backs. One worker, tasked with repainting the room, quit on the spot after spending just an hour inside. He claimed he felt someone breathing down his neck, though the room was empty. When he turned to leave, he saw faint scratches on the freshly painted walls, as though invisible hands had clawed at them. Despite everything, room 314 remained open, and the hotel's eerie reputation only grew. Paranormal investigators began visiting, hoping to capture evidence of the unexplained. Some left with recordings of strange noises or unusual electromagnetic readings, but no one could offer a clear explanation. The mystery surrounding the hotel deepened, and the strange occurrences spread to other parts of the building. Whatever haunted room 314 seemed to be growing stronger, its influence seeping into the walls and corridors of the once peaceful retreat. The hotel's fame grew, and with it came more daring visitors. Paranormal enthusiasts, thrill-seekers, and even documentary filmmakers arrived, hoping to uncover the truth about the hotel's dark reputation. They came armed with cameras, recording devices, and equipment to measure temperature changes and electromagnetic fields. What they found only added to the mystery. One group set up a full investigation in room 314, bringing in motion sensors and infrared cameras. They stayed overnight, documenting every sound and movement. Around midnight, the sensors began to detect movement, though no one was in the room. The cameras captured faint shadows flitting across the walls, and one recorded a chilling image, a faint outline of a hand pressed against the window, though the room was empty. The team left with their evidence, shaken but excited. Their findings were shared online, and the hotel became a viral sensation. But the attention brought more than just curiosity. It seemed to stir whatever dark presence lingered in the hotel, making the activity more intense. Guests began reporting incidents in other rooms, even those far from room 314. One man staying on the second floor woke up to find his suitcase unpacked and his clothes neatly folded on the bed, though he hadn't touched them. Another guest claimed they heard a woman crying in the hallway late at night. When they opened the door, the sound stopped, and the hallway was empty. The most unsettling report came from a family staying on the top floor. Their youngest child, a boy of 6, started talking to someone who wasn't there. When his parents asked who he was speaking to, he said it was the man in the corner. They dismissed it as a child's imagination, but the boy became increasingly frightened as the night went on. The family checked out early, unwilling to stay another night. The hotel staff began to grow more uneasy. Some of them had their own stories to tell. A housekeeper cleaning the ballroom reported seeing figures dancing in the reflection of the windows, though the room was empty. A night guard on patrol heard the elevator ding and saw the doors open, but no one was inside. When he checked the security cameras, they showed the elevator moving between floors on its own. Even the owner, who had once dismissed the rumors, started to worry. He ordered an investigation into the property's history, hoping to find some logical explanation. What he uncovered was chilling. Records showed that before the mansion was built, the land had been considered cursed by local tribes. Strange disappearances and unexplained deaths had been reported in the area for centuries. The mansion's original owners had ignored the warnings and built their home anyway, only to vanish themselves. The more the owner learned, the more convinced he became that the hotel's troubles weren't just stories. Something was wrong with the land itself, and whatever it wasn't going away. The hotel became a paradox. On one hand, its eerie reputation brought in curious visitors hoping for a brush with the supernatural. On the other, the growing number of disturbing incidents began to drive away even the bravest of thrill seekers. The staff found themselves stuck in a cycle of trying to maintain normalcy while facing the mounting pressure of unexplained phenomena. The paranormal investigators' findings, combined with the stories shared by guests, created a sense of foreboding that began to infect everyone. The strange occurrences became more frequent and more intense. Lights no longer just flickered, they would go out entirely for minutes at a time, leaving sections of the hotel in pitch darkness. Doors slammed shut on their own, even when there was no wind. One guest described hearing loud knocks on their door in the middle of the night, only to find no one there when they opened it. The staff were not spared. One night, the front desk clerk heard the sound of heavy footsteps coming from the lobby. Thinking it was a late-night guest, she looked up. But no one was there. The footsteps continued, echoing across the marble floors, growing louder as if approaching her. She stayed frozen in her chair, unable to move until the sound suddenly stopped. The hotel security team became increasingly involved, trying to calm the staff and reassure guests. But even they couldn't deny what was happening. Cameras captured unexplained movements, chairs sliding across the floor in the dining room, faint shapes darting through hallways, and once the image of a woman standing in room 314. The footage showed her standing by the window, looking out into the forest, though no one had checked into the room that day. One of the most unsettling incidents involved the basement storage area. A maintenance worker went down to check the boiler after a guest complained about cold water. He was alone, yet he heard faint laughter coming from the far corner of the room. He tried to dismiss it as an echo or a pipe rattling, but the laughter grew louder, turning into a low, guttural sound. He fled the basement, leaving the light on and refusing to return. The hotel owner decided to consult experts beyond paranormal investigators. A local historian was brought in to analyze the property's history in detail. What they found was alarming. The land had been considered cursed for generations, long before the mansion was built. Old maps showed markings of burial grounds near the area, and local legends spoke of rituals performed to ward off spirits. These rituals had been abandoned when settlers arrived, and some believed the land had been left vulnerable as a result. As the activity within the hotel escalated, even longtime employees began to leave. The sense of something dark and malevolent was undeniable. The once thriving retreat was transforming into a place people feared to enter. The final turning point came one stormy night when the hotel reached full capacity due to a local event. Guests filled the halls, and the staff worked overtime to manage the influx. Everything seemed normal at first, but as the storm raged outside, the disturbances inside the hotel grew worse than ever. Around midnight, the power went out. Emergency lights flickered on, casting long, eerie shadows across the hallways. Guests gathered in the lobby, hoping for answers, but the staff could do little except apologize and assure them the outage would be fixed soon. As the minutes turned to hours, unease spread among the crowd. In the dim light, people began to notice things that didn't seem right. Some claimed they saw figures moving at the edges of their vision, only to vanish when they turned to look. Others reported hearing whispers, low and indistinct, coming from no discernible direction. One woman screamed, insisting she felt a cold hand touch her shoulder, though no one was near her. The chaos reached its peak when the elevators began operating on their own. They moved between floors, their doors opening and closing repeatedly. A few guests, curious despite their fear, ventured upstairs to check on their rooms. When they returned, they were visibly shaken, refusing to speak about what they had seen. Meanwhile, in room 314, the activity reached a terrifying climax. A guest staying in the room reported seeing the furniture move on its own. The bed shook violently, and the walls seemed to pulsate as if alive. The guest fled the room, leaving their belongings behind, and later refused to explain what had happened. Down in the lobby, the tension was palpable. The storm outside grew fiercer, lightning illuminating the hotel in brief, blinding flashes. Then, without warning, the fire alarms began to blare. Guests panicked, rushing for the exits, but the doors wouldn't budge. They were locked, as if something or someone was keeping them inside. Moments later, the alarms stopped abruptly, plunging the hotel into silence. The guests stood frozen, unsure of what to do. Then, as if on cue, a low, mournful sound echoed through the building. It was neither a scream nor a whisper, but something in between, a sound that seemed to come from everywhere and nowhere at once. When the storm finally subsided and the doors unlocked, many of the guests left without even packing their bags. The hotel was left in shambles, its reputation now irreparably damaged. In the aftermath, the owner decided to close the hotel indefinitely. Despite its once grand status, the building was now seen as a place of fear and tragedy. Investigators continued to study the property, but no definitive answers were ever found. The hotel remains abandoned to this day, its windows boarded up and its halls silent. Yet those who pass by swear they can still feel its presence, a dark, watchful force that waits for the next chapter in its story.